This lab has three parts. The first part is using the centigram balance, the second part is using the pipette, and the third part is determining the density of an object. For part one, you're supposed to take the balance and take the mass of your 50 milliliter Erlenmeyer flask with the stopper on it. Take the first mass, take it off, tear it, take the second mass, take it off, tear it, take the third mass, take it off, tear it, take the fourth mass. Take it off. Using those four masses, you should be able to calculate the mean. For the second part, you want to use a thermometer to take the temperature of your distilled water. To do this, you place the thermometer in the water and you let it acclimate. Since the water has already been acclimated to room temperature, the thermometer should not see much movement. You'll need to read the thermometer to the tenths. Once you have the temperature from the thermometer, you could reference the table to determine the density. You record both of those on the line. We already have the starting mass for our Erlenmeyer flask, so now we want to start adding water to it. Set the thermometer aside, and we want to pipette 4 10 milliliter portions of water to the flask. So I have the mass of my empty flask. Now I'm going to pipette 10 milliliters of water. Stopper the flask, and get the mass. And then I'm going to remove the flask, add the second 10 milliliter portion, stopper the flask, replace the flask, and get the new mass. I want to add a third portion. Stopper it, get the mass, and I'm going to add my fourth and final portion. missed it. Set the pipette aside, stopper it, and get my final mass. Okay, we're done with that part. Moving on to part 3. We need to first take our object and get the mass of it. This is a cylinder made of copper. Record its mass. We need to then get the dimensions of the cylinder. So I'm going to first measure the height of the cylinder, being extra careful to line up the edge of the cylinder on the 0 mark of the ruler. Because the volume of a cylinder is pi r squared times the height, I just got the height. Now I need to get r, which is the radius. I'm not going to effectively measure the radius because I have to find the center, so instead I'll measure the diameter and divide by 2. So take the diameter of the cylinder and divide by 2. So I'm lining up with the edge. So you'll take that diameter, divide it by 2. You could then use the equation V, volume, is equal to pi times the radius squared times the height to determine the volume of the cylinder in cubic centimeters. So if I have the mass and I have the volume, I can calculate the density. I'm going to also calculate the density in a different method. I have the mass, but now I'm going to calculate the volume by water displacement. To do this, I need enough water to submerge my cylinder. So I'm going to pour some of my remaining distilled water in my graduated cylinder, and that is my starting volume. Once I submerge the cylinder, I want to be careful I don't crack the bottom, the water level will rise. And the amount that the water rises will be the volume of the cylinder. So take the volume after, subtract the volume before to get the volume of the cylinder. That'll be in milliliters. Again, calculate the density using the mass. That's it.